Hello guys, welcome to part 2 of my car animation tutorial. If you're looking for part 1, the link will be in the description and somewhere on the screen. Today is the final part, so we have a lot to cover. When you have the free version for the brake animation, you can set the drive to 0 and add a keyframe. In this example, I have in frame 16 the drive to 8, and then in frame 18 I have the drive to 0. It means that my car will start to stop after the frame 18. If the brake is not sudden enough for you, you can just simply add a cube like I did here and place it wherever you want. For example here, and for this cube you have to go in RBC collisions and set it as a passive collision. So the car will hit it and stop. Just like this. And of course, as I said, you can put it wherever you want. And for the visibility, you just have to disable it in the viewport and in the render. But in general, you don't have to do exactly what I did for my scene. You could just use the theory behind to create your own animation. Now, let's continue with finalizing our camera movements. First, we are going to change the resolution of the project for a more cinematic look and fewer pixels to render. So you go in Output Properties and you change the Y to 817 to have this cinematic aspect ratio. So in the previous part, we left our camera animation like this. Today, let's improve it. First, we will add some zooms to add some interest to the movements. So for example, here, so in the camera view, you press Ctrl on your keyboard and middle mouse button, and you move up to zoom. Maybe like this, and with the camera selected you press I on your keyboard to update the keyframe. So if we check, so yes, we have a zoom, and maybe we could zoom back here. So let's do the opposite. So Control, middle mouse button, and we go away from the car like this, and I again to add another keyframe, and maybe here one more time. I zoom here like this, and okay, so there we have a few zooms here and there. When you're happy with the overall look, it's critical that you take the time to validate your camera animation and you do your tweaks, because we are going to smooth all the movements and it will be a pain to change it after. So to smooth all the camera movements and to get rid of those hard transitions, actually let me close this window first just to show you how I created it. So like this. And what you do to add another window, like we did the first time, you come here until you have the crosshair and you drag like this. And in this window, we are going to go in the graph editor, and to smooth all the camera movements, you select your camera and you press A on your keyboard to select all the keyframes. And from there, we are going to create keyframes between all our major keyframes. So in key, you go in sample keyframes, and now as you can do, Blender has created keyframes for us, but it changed nothing at all for now. The movements are still very hard. So to smooth everything, you press A to select everything, and here in this window, you press Alt and O on your keyboard, and you could do that several times. And we don't see it clearly here, let me show you. And it's going to smooth all those little spikes in order to have a smooth animation. So let's continue. So A and Alt O. And now if I check my animation here, as you can see, it's very smooth. Wow. I like it. And now it's the time to add some mess in all that. Yeah, because we don't want the camera to be that clean. For my taste, it's better to have a more organic movements. And instead of doing it manually, let's use this add-on created by Jan Herbert and Nathan Begdol. The add-on is Camera Shakeify, and normally you can download it from here. But the issue is that there is a bug since version 3 point something, and you can't use the add-on anymore. So instead, I will put a link in the description for a version that I have fixed. Okay, to install the add-on, you do as usual, Edit, Preferences, you go in Add-ons and Install. You look for the add-ons, Camera Shakeify Master Fix, you click on Install add-on, and you will have the add-on available right in your camera here. So you click on your camera, first you select your camera, and then you click on the camera icon, And if you go down here, you will have Camera Shaker 5. So now is the time to add some shakiness. But keep in mind that we will still be able to add more camera movements in the composition stage if needed. In other words, it's better less than too much. So you go in the Camera Shaker 5 panel and you press this little plus button to add an effect. And here in the shake drop-down list, you will have all the different effects. So in spacebar, as you can see now, there are a lot of shakiness happening. It's very cool, very organic, but more importantly, it's automatic. And I like investigation, but let me show you another one. So maybe bike on gravel. And as you can see, this one is very extreme. But of course, you can change the influence of the add-on on your scene just here. So I could put, for example, 0.01. And now there will be less shakiness. As you can see, there is still some shakiness happening, but the effect is very low due to the value here in influence. So let's go back in investigation and maybe find a value that you like. So, and of course, this is up to you. You can choose whatever effect you prefer. Me, for this project, I would like to use investigation. And let's see at 1. Yeah, 1 seems fine. So maybe a little bit too much for me. So I will go for 0.8. So let's see again. Yes, I prefer that. Now is the time to take care of the main lights. Here I have opened my final scene to show what I did step by step. Before the lights, I'm sure you noticed the issue with the road. If I go back and I press play, as you can see, because of the camera movements, we have now some holes to cover. So let's do that by duplicating the road. So you click on the road, Alt D and G and X to move the road. I already did that. So one on this side and one on this side. And now I know that I don't have any holes anymore. For the main lights, I use this street lamp from my city pack. And of course, if you don't have my pack, I will make this available for free. The link will be in the description. So you select everything with the light and Control C. You go back in your scene, and in your scene, you create a new collection. So this button, or right click new collection. You name it light and you paste the street lamp inside. I already did that. So you click on your collection and Control V, and then you will have your lamp inside. Okay, first I will deactivate the lights to show you how it looks for the first time. Let's go in Camera Render Preview. So here you click on this little icon, and because we don't have any lights, it's actually dark. And if you don't have this configuration, you should change the world properties. So you go here and you put 0 for the strength. Let's go in frame 1, and from there you paste your light. And let me show you my configuration, my setup. So I have 2 street lights, one on top of the other, to have this configuration. And for the light, it's still an area light, but if I click on the power, I went for 1000 watt and a little blue. Here are the values. And actually it looks already pretty good for me, but just one thing though, I have to turn off the light inside. And when you are happy with the first configuration, to copy it, you select everything and Alt D, okay, Alt D to copy the lights. And why Alt D? Because those objects will have the same properties. So if you change the power of a light, it will affect the other lights as well. So I use 3 main sources. So one here, one here, one here. One around 150 frames and one around 300 frames. Okay, this is for my configuration, but don't hesitate to change it for your configurations if you want more lights maybe. And for the light inside the car, I just created an area light that I have parent to the car. So to do so, you press Shift A on your keyboard and light, and you select area light. Let me move it. And at the moment, the light is not going in the good direction. So you press N, item, and you move it on the X-axis. I think it's minus 90 degrees. Yeah, like this. And I used the color, this color, if you want to see the values, and the power was 100 watt. And to parent it to the car, you just move it wherever you want it. So let me go on top maybe, and I think I I put mine here, and something like that. You move it, and to parent it to the car, so you select your light and then you select the body of your car and Control P to parent it, and object keep transform. So the light will move with the car, but I will not do that because it's already done. And once again, this is your project. If you don't like this light or the color or the power, you just have to change it or turn it off completely if it's better for your scene. Okay, that's it for the main light. Now let's go for the buildings. For the buildings, I use those 5 from my city pack, and once again, I will make 3 of them available for free so you can follow along. But before that, let's check the camera settings. So I click on the camera here and I go in camera settings, and be sure that you have f-stop 1 or less than 1 in order to have this blurry background. And concerning the buildings, I chose those ones because they got lights which will give some interest to the scene. I placed them randomly to have a good looking background for my taste. And as you can see, if I go in top view, they are pretty far from the car. Then I decided to place 2 of them on this side to have some lights spilling on the car here. Let me show you the with and without. So if I select this building and I hide it, as you can see, there is no lights. The look is nice as well. It really depends on what you're looking for. And now with those buildings, as you can see, we have more information on this side of the car. Okay, that's it for the buildings. It's pretty easy when you have the right tools. And now let's talk about the driver. For the driver, I use the character from Mixamo. So you just go in mixamo.com and browse characters. And I think I selected James. When you have your character selected, you just go in animations here and you select an animation, and I went for driving, and for the style I went for 0 to have a very decontract style. Then you click on download. FBX, you select the correct FPS and download. Then you will have an FBX file. Back in Blender, you go in File, Import FBX, and you select the file we just downloaded and import FBX, and numpad period to focus on this object, and J and X just to move it so we can see the guy. And now if I press play, as you can see, our driver is animated. But if we check the animation keyframes here, as you can see, it's only got 121. So here you type AR to only have the armature animation, and you copy all those keyframes to loop until the end of the project. Now what we could do is to optimize our render time, because if I select this guy, so here you select on armature and you click on the character here, the CH something, I will go in array modifier, I will add a new modifier, a decimate one, and as you can see, these characters is 27,000 faces. It's a lot for what we need. So let's have less in ratio. You just put 0.25, and now it's only 11,000, but we could do better. So with the character selected, you go in edit mode and you select X-ray here, and let's select the legs, something like that, and delete vertices. Okay, now we go back in object mode, and as you can see, we only got 8,000 faces now. To place the guy, I press G, Shift Z to lock the Z axis, and I move the character here in my car. For example, here. Okay, and from there you can move it up and down until you have something you like. Now you see the point of having a light in the car. And to parent the character to the car, you do like we did for the light. You just select the armature, and then you select the body, Control P, and keep transform. So the character will move with the car. Pretty easy. And yes, I confirm again, the character is animated in my project. Okay, now let's deal with the city props. First, let's add a floor on this side, because currently it's a black hole. You go on polyhaven.com and you search for asphalt02. The link will be in the description. 2K is enough, and you download the files. And it says that the texture should be applied on the 3 meter wide plane. So in Blender, you press Shift A and mesh plane. Let's move it. G, Shift Z, and numpad period. Here you click on the plane, you press N, item, you select X and Y in the dimensions, and you press 3 to be 3 meters, and N again. And now we go in the shading editor. So shading and numpad period to have your plane focus, and new to add a new material. And normally you should have Node Wrangler activated, but if it's not the case, just go in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and you search for Wrangler, Node Wrangler, and you activate this add-on. And with your plane selected and the principal BSDF selected, you press Ctrl, Shift, and T on your keyboard, and then you go for the texture you downloaded. Yeah, it's a zip file, but you should extract the files. So here I have all the files, so you select everything, and like this, you will have the texture correctly mapped to your principal BSDF, and it's automatic. Yeah, I love Node Wrangler. Okay, then let's go back in our scene. Let's move it that, and we're gonna array this plane. So here, add a modifier array, and let's go for 10. Okay, maybe 15. Cool. Then you add another modifier array again, but this time 0 on X and on Y 1. And let's go for 40 maybe. Okay, perfect. Then you move everything where you want it to be. I'm frame 1, yes. Where is my car? Okay, my car is here. Okay, now we have a cool ground. And normally it's enough for the end. Let's check at the end. Yes, it's enough. Okay, for the ground. Then for the street decoration, you can use whatever you want. I personally used a lot of assets coming from my city pack. Trashes, barriers, cables, signs. I also use those low characters people from Sketchfab. I will put the link in the description. And if you don't have my city pack, you can simply go on Sketchfab and search for Street Free, and you will have a bunch of assets to use. You can also go on Polyhaven, and here you will also have free assets to use in your scene. The idea is to put a bunch of stuff everywhere. And one thing, to give some depth to your shot, don't forget to put some items in front of the camera also, like I did here with those machines. And you can do that with people, with signs, with street lamps. So whatever you have, don't forget to throw some items just in front of the camera, so we have different steps and different depths to look at, and it's more interesting for the eye and better for the scene. Okay, so for the fog, I have created a cube, and the idea is the cube has to be in the entire scene. I mean, from the start to the end of your animation. So here at frame 300, I am still in the fog. So creating the fog is quite simple. You just create a cube, so mesh and cube, and then you scale your cube until it covers the entire scene. So here you get the idea. Then with your cube selected, you go in Object Properties, you search for Viewport Display, and Display As, you select Wire. Now for the actual fog, you go in Shading, and you press New. You delete the principal BSDF, Shift A, search, volume. You search for principal volume. You plug the volume to the volume, but now the value is a bit extreme. Let me move that. And I think I use a value of 0.01 for the density. So here, density, I had 0.01. Did I change something else? Yes, I had 0.8 for the anisotropy. So anisotropy 0.8. But you can play with the density and to have something that match your needs and the look you want to create. And the fog is really the final element that helps to sell the mood that we want to achieve. Okay guys, that's it. I think we have all the different elements in our scene, and we are ready for the render. And for the render settings, I use cycles, of course, and max samples I had 2048. You can do more, you can do less. It's up to your machine. And of course, you need to have a motion blur activated. Frame rates 24 seconds, and the output for the files I use PNG. Now all you have to do is to render our animation, and we go in the composition stage. Okay, so here we are in DaVinci Resolve for the final touches, and don't forget that we have a free version of DaVinci Resolve to do everything that you need. So in DaVinci Resolve, you have finished to render your files. So maybe you have a bunch of files like this, and you just have to import them in DaVinci Resolve. So you select everything, or maybe you just take the directory and you drag and drop the directory in DaVinci Resolve, and here you will have your animation recognized as a sequence. If it's not the case, you click here on these little three dots. You have to be in the media tab here, and you click here on these three dots, frame display mode, and you select sequence. Okay, now let's go back in the edit tab. So I just drag my main animation here. Now for the different effects, let me deactivate the color grading first. Okay, so you click on your main animation, and here I have some glow. Okay, so you can see the glow, maybe not here, maybe here. Yeah, we can see the glow here, or where there are some lights. And to add some glow, you just go in effect here, you search for, you go in OpenFX and you type glow, and you drag and drop the effect on your timeline on the video. So here are the glow, here are my values. I think I used the default values for the glow, I'm not sure, but you can see the values here if you want to play with. And then I use another effect, which is soften and sharpen, because the images coming from Blender are too sharp for my taste. So I add some blur to do that. So here, the medium texture, I went for negative value -0.8 and -0.3 for the large texture. And for the global blend, I went for 0.48. And then I add a vignette, okay, just to focus on the car. Once again, this is my taste. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to. Just play with the different effect. And same for vignette. You just look for vignette and you drag and drop the effect on the timeline on your clip. And then I went from some lens flare. So here, yes, here is the first lens flare, and I think I had another one at the end of the video. And for the lens flare, for this shot, I did some manual positioning. So you just go in position, you activate the keyframe here, and then you just move the lens flare wherever you need it. And to move the lens flare, you go in this little icon, you go in OpenFX overlay. So you have the choice to move the lens flare where you need. And because you have the keyframe activated, it will create a keyframe each time you move the lens flare. So let me undo that. Okay, that's it. And then, of course, in DaVinci Resolve, it's well known for that. You have the color grading. So in the color grading tab, and for the color grading, I mainly use a plugin named Film Convert that I use all the time in all my movies. And as you can see, it's doing a pretty good job with the grain, with punching the highlights and the cinematic look. Of course, if you don't have this plugin, I'm not going to do a color grading course right now. So the list concerns the shadows and the different colors, the mid-range color, and here the highlights. And the offset is everything. So if you want a look, you just go in the highlights. For example, you want your scene to be a little bit bluish, or maybe greenish, or whatever. As you can see, it's better to do that in the highlights. And normally, if you want your scene to be well balanced, the shadows has to touch the 0 bar. So for the shadows, you can go there, here in these little wheels, and you drag down until you have the shadows that are very, very black. And as you can see, there is a lot of contrast now on your scene. Yeah, actually it looks good. I don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah, I went for something pretty simple, only the plugin. But of course, as I always said, you can play around with the different options to do whatever you want to achieve. And for the other shots, we didn't cover the shots, but I think you have all the elements to do those shots. It's pretty straightforward. Same for the acceleration. Instead of 8, you just put something like 40 or 50 for the acceleration. Not too much, because if you put 100 for the drive, the car will go in strange directions. It's because you cannot go from 0 to 100. You should go from 0 maybe to 40 and 50, and then from 50 you can go for 100 for the drive value, I mean in Blender. For the sound now, what I did is generally for the sound I just go in YouTube and I look for the C63 sounds. Sometimes in the Forza game. There are a lot of videos with the Forza Horizon playing with the C63, and you just have to find a sound that is matching your scene. And if it's too painful to find something, for me, what I did, I just bought the game, and I always ask my son to play the game and to copy the animation I have created. So I use the sounds from Forza Horizon. And I just forgot to mention that you also have trees in Polyheaven that you could use in your scene for the street decoration. Well, guys, I think we did it all. Congratulations. Don't hesitate to ask me questions in the comment section if needed. And thank you for following this tutorial. I see you in my next video. Bye bye.